Mr. Kind's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I, too, want to thank our panelists for your testimony here today. It is helpful, and we have been hearing countless hearings throughout the year on what comprehensive tax reform should entail, so getting this feedback, I think, is very beneficial. But unless or until, and I've made this point in previous hearings, unless we start putting something in draft, putting something on paper, we're all dealing in the 30,000-foot theoretical level. Because we all know that at the end of the day, and the chairman knows this and every member of the committee knows this, once you put something on paper, you're immediately going to be creating winners and losers, no matter what we do, which is going to make reform very, very difficult. And that's why we're going to be asking you to do some pretty hard calculations, those of you who are representatives of the manufacturing sector of this country, of what you are willing to live with and what you're willing to give up for the sake of a shared goal of trying to lower rates, broaden the base, and simplify, simplify, and simplify. Now, we're getting contradictory messages from some of you witnesses here today, where you're telling us, not all of you, and Mr. Jertzel, we had a nice conversation about this, and 3M you were clear with me yesterday, and you were clear in your testimony today, that you're willing to give up a lot of the expenditures that you currently take for the sake of a lower rate, and I appreciate that. But you can't have both. And we're hearing from some of you that you'd like lower rates, but you'd also like to keep R&D, you'd like to keep depreciation, you'd like to keep 199. And that's the concern that I have, because the goal of trying to get to 25%, the Congressional Budget Office already told us that in order to try to get there, we have to take away every tax expenditure that exists on the C side. And even then, the best we can do is get to 28. So if the goal is really to get to 25, then somehow you're going to have to supplant that lost revenue and dip into the pass-through side. So Mr. Hart, Mr. Beck, that's when your ears perk up, as they should, in a hurry. Because I don't think you're going to be willing to be paying more as a pass-through entity for the sake of C Corps getting a lower 25% rate, if we're going to do this in a deficit-neutral fashion. And yet most of the expenditures that are talked about being eliminated are the ones that directly benefit manufacturing. And Dr. Boucher, I want to ask your opinion in a second of what the impact would be on the manufacturing sector of our economy if we do take away R&D, if we do take away depreciation, we do take away 199 for the sake of lowering the rates and broadening the base. Because I happen to believe that a country as great as ours, we have to have the ability to make things and to produce things and to invent things and create things and grow things, or we are no longer going to be a superpower in this world. And therefore, I think there'd be more interest on this committee of what type of changes we have to make in the tax code that would benefit companies such as yours that make things and invent things and create things here in the United States of America. And that's why earlier this year I introduced legislation called Promoting American Manufacturing Act, which calls for reducing the manufacturing rate from 35 to 20 for those that make things, for those manufacturers of our country. And we're not going to be able to do that for every industry, for every sector of our economy. But what's being pitted right now against each other are basically your manufacturers in your technology sector versus everyone else, from the retailers, the wholesalers, financial corporations, the service sectors, who are paying a high rate right now, but they're not getting these deductions. They'd love to have a lower rate. But in order to get there, you're going to be taking away a lot of the expenditures that directly benefit manufacturers in the process. And we need help in trying to figure this out. And you guys are going to have to make those hard calculations of what you're willing to live with for the sake of lower rates, what you're willing to give up. But maybe, Dr. Boucher, ask you first, and then Mr. Hart, I want to go back to you to get your perspective on this too. But what do you think would be the impact on domestic manufacturing if we take those expenditures off that directly benefit manufacturing in the high-tech sector today, just for the sake of lowering rates for everyone?
Well, from where I sit, looking at the big picture as an economist, it seems like that would be bad for U.S. manufacturing. And we already have an industry that certainly has been in trouble, we've seen a decline in many ways in manufacturing employment and as a share of GDP. And I think it should be a national goal to make sure that manufacturing remains a vital part of our economy and grow it. And so these kinds of tax expenditures that seem very important to manufacturing should not be done at the expense of lowering the rate, when the lowering of the rate, at least according to all of the analysis, if you did that in a revenue neutral way, would disproportionately benefit other industries like finance and insurance and retail, which while are of course certainly important, don't have the pivotal place that manufacturing plays, both in terms of job creation, but also as a key sector for innovation.
Dr. Boucher, not to sound too crass in my analysis, and listen, I'm holding myself out as an expert, But if you take a look at the manufacturing and tech sectors, these jobs are highly mobile. You guys can go anywhere around the globe where it makes sense for you to do it. But you look at the other sectors, retailers, wholesalers, financials, the service sectors, they're less mobile. I mean, where are they going to go? They got to stay here in the United States, provide jobs here because this is where the customer base is.
Not only are they
Time
less
has
mobile.
expired, so if you just could be brief.
Okay, not only are they less mobile, but they don't create the same kind of innovation effects that are so critical for us remaining the sort of the economic powerhouse that we have been.